Hello, everyone, and welcome to this short video on the social dimensions of water in mining. My name is Jocelyn Fraser. I'm a research associate at the University of British Columbia's Norman B. Keevil Institute of Mining Engineering. I live and work here in Vancouver on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations. Much of my research has either been influenced by or informed by the 20 years I spent working in the global mining industry. I was with De Beers back in 2000 during a period of time when the company was developing its first mines outside of Southern Africa and had the opportunity to participate in the engagement and permitting processes for the Snap Lake and Victor diamond mines. More recently, I was a member of the senior management team tasked with the building and commissioning of a $1.4 billion copper mine, Mount Milligan, here in British Columbia. I did my PhD at the School of Mining Engineering, but I'm actually a social scientist. And my principal interest is investigating opportunities to improve mining company and community collaboration so that the long-term sustainable development of resource-rich communities can be enhanced. There's a number of different aspects to this, but today I want to focus on the idea of creating shared value, providing benefit to business and society simultaneously around issues related to water. To start with, though, let's just step back and take a look at the big picture. I think we can agree that mining is a risky business, but many companies are discovering that the greatest risks today are not below the surface, finding the resource, proving its commercial viability, or even mining complex ore bodies. The principal risks seem to be coming from above ground and are clustered around E, S, and G, environment, social, and governance issues. I was very interested in this issue of mining company community conflict, and that's what brought me to UBC to do my PhD. I wanted to try and quantify the incidences of conflict and to see if I could explore the root causes. What the research told us was that in the period studied from 2012 to 2015, there was no question that conflict was increasing. And it was even increasing in jurisdictions like Canada and Australia that wouldn't typically be considered high-risk jurisdictions by financial institutions or lending agencies. And you may not be surprised to learn that the causes of conflict can be complex and interwoven, but many can be traced to the large sustainability issues confronting our global society. And that's why a lot of the work that I do refers to or is anchored by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These 17 goals came into effect in 2015 and represent a global agenda for sustainable change and development. I think we can agree that mining has contributed to many of the problems that the SDGs seek to address. But I think the industry is also somewhat uniquely positioned to advance progress on a number of those goals. Most pertinent to our conversation today is SDG number 6, access to water and sanitation. Competition for an increasingly scarce resource in some areas, water, has led to tension between mining companies, communities, and other water users. And as we look to make our transition to a low carbon economy, those energy transition minerals are going to also require water. In fact, according to research done out of the University of Queensland last year, 65% of the world's lithium resources, for example, are now located in areas of medium to high water risk. And when we add in climate change and the fact that 2/3 of the world's largest mining companies are already operating in areas of water risk, I think we have a recipe for conflict. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about how some companies have changed their approach from viewing water as a commodity to be bought and sold to viewing water as a strategic asset. And the change in that view has opened up opportunities for collaborative partnerships to advance shared water stewardship and sustainable water management. To illustrate what I'm talking about, let's travel to Arequipa, Peru, and take a look at a case study that I investigated in my PhD. The Cerro Verde mine is located in the Arequipa province, so that's the southwest of Peru. It's about 35 kilometers outside the city of Arequipa, high in the Atacama Desert, an area of water scarcity. As the mine operators began to plan for a proposed expansion to the mine, moving from producing 180,000 metric tons per day to 360,000 metric tons per day, they were very conscious of the risk that water could pose to the success of their project. Other operations in the area Tia Maria, Las Bambas, and Conga had been stalled or derailed as farmers expressed their concerns about access to an increasingly scarce resource of water. So as the company opened up its consultation and engagement, they also opened up opportunities for others to provide ideas on how they might source the water that they would need for the expanded operation. And City of Arequipa engineers came to them to ask if perhaps the mine could do something to support the city with one of its own sustainability issues. At that time, more than 90% of the City of Arequipa's municipal wastewater was being discharged directly to the Rio Chili, the principal water source for the region. Fecal chloroform counts in the river vastly exceeded those set for either safe exposure or safe use of the water. And yet downstream from this discharge point sits the rich agricultural region of La Jolla. Now, farmers' official water allocations never came from the river. However, many smallhold farmers, such as the person we can see on the left, used to take their water for their smallhold farms from the river. So following a period of consultation, engagement, and negotiation, it was determined that the mine would build, own, operate, and ultimately transfer ownership of a municipal wastewater treatment facility. In exchange, the mine would receive a portion of the treated wastewater, 1 cubic meter per second, for use in the expanded mining operation. And the remaining water would be discharged back to the Rio Chili, helping to improve the river's health. Here's the photo that we looked at a moment ago from 2015. And here's a photo taken in 2016, just 5 months after the wastewater treatment facility began operations. You can see the significant improvement to the river, and more importantly, perhaps, the data confirms it. Now, it's one thing for big operating companies like Cerro Verde to be able to contribute to community sustainable development. But in some of the research that Dr. Nadia Kunz and I have been doing in Mongolia, we are also finding that it's possible for smaller companies, even those at the exploration stage, to make progress on water stewardship initiatives. The work that Nadia and I are doing is investigating the activities of a Canadian company, Erdene Resource Management. They've made a high-grade near-surface discovery in the South Gobi Desert. This is a region that's vast, sparsely populated, and has harsh climatic conditions. There's very little surface water. And yet, nomadic herders have traveled this region and called it home for centuries. So as Erdene began planning for the mine, they talked with their communities of interest to learn about their priorities for water stewardship. As a result, they undertook an initiative to rehabilitate a series of wells that existed in the Gobi Desert that had at one time been used by herders, but that had fallen into disrepair. They also enabled herders to access water from the wells that they drilled for exploration. And then, in an effort that I think really demonstrates the idea of creating and sharing value, they included the community of Syngenst, located 100 kilometers away, when they did their hydrogeological investigation to try to find a source of water for the mine. Syngenst is located about 100 kilometers from the proposed site and has a population of about 2,500 people. It was built in an area of the Gobi Desert with no access to potable water. So during the hydrogeological investigation, luck must have been on the side, but they found a potable water source 3 kilometers from the town center. The company, Erdene, then worked in collaboration with their own local suppliers, local government officials, and agencies to drill a water well that could provide potable water for the community. These kinds of examples that I'm talking about, where mining companies and communities collaborate together on shared interests, on common interests to create shared value, are still somewhat rare. But I think, I hope, as these examples have shown, there's room for optimism for the future. The research that I'm looking at is trying to build a model for issue-centered collaboration to create shared value. In the examples I focused on, we're talking about water. And I think that this approach could see mining as a catalyst for sustainable development of resource-rich communities. And in the process, we might end up with both better business and a better world. Thanks very much for your attention on this short presentation. I hope to see you at the BRIMM discussion on June 16th. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please reach out. I'd be very pleased to hear from you. Thank you.